All right, we're live. We're live. All right, Shalom. This is the I.S.U.P.K. So I'm under Commanding General YAHANNA. Today's class is the Monday history class. So we got a lot to get into. But for those of you that it is your first time, we have a school in the UK, in the city of Birmingham. The address is 394 Lodge Road, postcode B18 5PW. And then we do classes all throughout the week, man. We got the Monday history class, the brotherhood class, Wednesday law class, Thursday scripture breakdown class. We got Friday on the ends, you know what I mean? We Captain Mashak Mayum, you know what I mean? Everyone be loving on the ends, man. I'll be getting the phone calls all the time about, on the ends, like, you know what I mean? So that's good as well, man. So in the UK, we have a school in the city of Birmingham. If you look us up on an app called the Google My Business, you will find us. And on a search engine, you can get the directions, whether it's a car, the train, by foot, depending on where you live. You know what I mean? You don't want to walk from London to here, and those Nikes, them souls are gonna be gone, man. By the time you're here. But yeah, depending on what way you want to get here, there is suitable directions for you as well, man. So we're on damn near on everything. We're on the Google My Business. We're on we're on Spotify, Facebook, YouTube. Now we're even on the a TikTok and now as well. So we're also on that under the name ISUPK UK, no gaps. ISUPK UK, no gaps. So we're on pretty much every app that is out there, every social media platform that is out there. So let me check. What you think it's on? Yeah, on Facebook. Let me check. What you think it's on? All right, let me check the YouTube. 1 second. All right, let me check the YouTube. 1 second. I'll be live on there as well. Okay, Most High in Christ. No sweat. I found it eventually. Yeah. Okay, no sweat. Let me get that. But yeah, we are on every popular platform that is out there. So yeah, it ain't hard to find us. And on those platforms, you can find everything that we have done, meaning our camps, previous classes, lectures, and whatever we have done in the name of the Lord, man. So with that, we're gonna get into the history class. So we're gonna read an article first about the history of a Bible. Then we're gonna get into some history that it says it in a Bible and is found in normal secular history as well. Sending it to you now. Yeah. All right. So I believe I sent you an article. I can send it again if you need it again. So I can send it to you again. I got it. Yes. So we're gonna first read an article right here, and even people that just look at the Bible from a historical standpoint, even they acknowledge that the Bible is historical. That the Bible is not just make-believe, and it's not just, something that sounds nice, but even real historians know that the Bible is historical. So if you could read that. If you want to, yeah.
How accurate is the Bible? So to get able to tell the screen.
No, straight. So you want the screen more to you?
Flat, yeah.
No. That better?
Color one can't say. How accurate is the Bible? The Bible is full of contradictions and errors.
All right. So now the man that wrote this article right here, that's not what he's saying. He's saying that's what many people that don't believe in the book say, that the Bible is full of contradictions, errors, but he's going to show you that that is a lie. And he's not alone in this opinion that he has. Reader.
Kanawan Khan, how can you be sure the Bible is the same now as when it was written, given that it's been copied and translated many times?
So now, these are things that we hear all the time. Anyone that reads the Bible, you will hear that all the time. But how do you know what you are reading now is the same as back then? And this man, through his history, remember now, he's not a man of God. He doesn't know the breakdowns and all the deep, dark stuff. But on a historical standpoint, even he has to admit that the Bible is a historical book. And many accusations that many people have on the book, even he has to let them know that they are wrong and is going to explain. Reader.
These common charges against the Christian scriptures are often followed with an assertion like historians and scientists have long since proven that the Bible is inaccurate and unreliable.
So now that statement there, that shuts many people down. Where the historians, they don't believe in the Bible, but he's going to let you know something about these people that allegedly know history. While they say these things, there's something they don't let you know about the people that make those statements up. Reader.
But how accurate is that statement? Is the Bible really full of contradictions? Is it outdated, inauthentic, and full of scientific and historical errors, as so many assert? In short, can we trust the Bible? Here, we will consider some objections to the accuracy and the reliability of the Bible to help you make a more informed decision about whether or not the Bible is trustworthy.
All right, so now he's just gonna let you know now with this writer, he's not taking any side. He's saying he's just going to lay out the facts. So with this man, he's not just trying to make the Bible look good. He's saying he's gonna just lay out. So he's not going to assert to you if the Bible is true or if the Bible is wrong, but it's going to give these people that know history some things to think about. Reader.
For a more thorough treatment on the Bible's reliability, see question 4. False impressions. Consider the following statements. The Bible says that God helps those who help themselves.
All right, so we're not going to read all these, but he's making a point here. Many people, they think things are in the book that are not there.
That's right.
Like that phrase right there. Where do you find that in the Bible, man? God helps those that help themselves. You will never find it in the Bible.
That's right.
That is nonsense. But people believe that, man. You know what I mean? Someone will go in the Bible, it says God helps those that help themselves, and it's not in there.
That's right.
And that is something that plagues the earth right now. Many people think they know the book and they don't know the Bible, man.
That's right.
In their mind, the Bible says this is a contradiction, this is here, this is there, and it's not, man. So many people have false information on the book, that things that weren't even there, they believe is there. And that's why they start believing in the words found in this book. We can skip that. It's giving you just some examples.
Oh, skip it, sir.
How many
of the above statements do you think are true? The answer is none. All of them are false. Yet these false impressions persist in the minds of many, and misinformation like this precedes a skeptical attitude toward the Bible.
Just like Walla said, there's things that are not in there, and because people believe it is, they have a false perception of the Bible. They have an attitude towards the book, blaming something on the book, which was never there to begin with, man.
That's right.
Read on.
The fact is that few expectations, many have reached their conclusion about the Bible through second and third hand sources.
And that is the problem, man. Many people that claim there's contradictions in the Bible, they've never read it themselves, man. Meaning with the source, it's not from you. You didn't go, I read this, I'm the source. You're reading what someone else says, or you're reading the information of a man that got it from someone else. But many people that make these things up, they haven't done the research themselves, man. They've got it through someone else who got it through someone else, and he was wrong, man. And now this is what happens with this book. Many people, they didn't research it themselves. They didn't open up the Bible and go in the Hebrew, go in the Latin and the Greek. They just went on YouTube and got the information off somebody else.
That's right.
And then want to come to us at camp. The Bible's got contradictions. The Bible is altered. You remember that a woman at camp and speaking, altered. And listen, she got that from a source of someone else, man.
That's right.
It's not what she researched herself. She didn't have some late nights looking at the Bible and going, nah, something's wrong there. You're just following the information of somebody else, man. Read on.
The fact is that with few exceptions, many have reached their conclusion about the Bible through second and third hand sources rather than through first hand investigation. For example, it is a rare person who has personally examined the text to see if its alleged contradiction is really there.
And there you go. And look, I don't know this man, but he says what we've been saying since 1969, man. Many people that claim something is wrong with the Bible, they've never gone through it themselves, man. They've never took time out of their busy life and gone, you know what? Let me see if that contradiction is really there. They don't do it. They just go online, and I hate to do this, but they make some nice videos online, or the opera music, contradictions of the Bible. In the Bible, in one part, it says Luke in this. And then over here, the Bible says something else. And you not doing it yourself, you would believe it, man. Why? Because you ain't done the research yourself. You ain't took time out of your busy life to go and see if it is really there. Reader.
Someone who asserts that the Bible is full of contradictions should be able to name at least one, if not several. Challenging them to do so can be a helpful initial response.
So Of course, he's saying, well, you ask him, you go, well, where are these contradictions? And no one has them. They go, it's in there, man. You know, I've looked it up in the past. It's there somewhere. You know why? Because they don't know, man. They don't know. But right, we're gonna skip some of this article for time's sake. Skip those fronts. All right, 3 tests. I'm just skipping down for time's sake because we've got so much history to get into. Second. All right, let me skip to just. All right, you can skip to the part where it says the in eternal test. Yeah, eternal test.
The internal test, the second test of the reliability of the biblical documents, addresses the question: what claims does the Bible make about itself?
All right, so now if you want to know if a book is a lie, the second thing you would need to do is read it. You mean read and see the allegations the book is saying, and then with other history out there, go, well, that is not adding up. So if you believe that the Bible is a lie, first read the Bible, man. Read it and go, well, nah, something is contradicting here because at that time that don't make sense. In history, that part of the Bible don't add up. So if you want to prove the Bible wrong, the first step would be to read the Bible.
That's right.
And now this is what this historian is saying, man. That if you want to prove that this book is a lie, first you will have to read it and see what the book says about itself, man. See the claims that the book is making. Reader.
This may appear to be circular reasoning. It sounds like we are using the testimony of the Bible to prove that the Bible is true, but we are really examining the truth claims of the various authors of the Bible and following them to speak for themselves.
And there, man. So meaning the men that wrote those books, allow them to speak, allow them to say what they're saying, and then see if it's a lie. That's one way to find out if the Bible is a lie. Make Isaiah speak for itself, man. Make Ezekiel speak for itself, and then see if it's a lie, man. Read Isaiah and go, nah, that's a lie, man. In history, it never went like that. That's one way to show if the Bible is valid or it's not.
That's right.
Make them books. Make the books of the Bible speak for itself. Read on.
Remember, the Bible is not one book, but many books woven together. This provides significant evidence that must not be ignored.
So now, why can't you ignore this? Because nowhere in the Bible does it ever claim that one man wrote all the books. Isaiah, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, and you can't ignore this because all these men that, writ their books, they're all saying the same thing, and they didn't even live around each other, man. All these men talking about the Messiah making his return, and every vision they had, they're all saying the same thing. So that's something that you can't ignore. Now, it's not like if all these men lived in the same house and, the writings are all the same. They're all saying the same thing. Then you can say something, go, well, look, all these men live together, man. They're always writing it at the same time. You can then have some room for debate. But you are reading a book that in every book you see is written by a different author. And regardless of where they are, what happened, they are all saying the same thing, man. And these books are historically accurate too. Read on.
A number of biblical authors claim that their accounts are primary, not secondary. That is, the bulk of the Bible was written by people who were eyewitnesses.
All right. So like no sweat, you can skip to the next paragraph. The independent witnesses. So eyewitnesses.
The independent eyewitnesses accounts in the New Testament of the life, death, and resurrection of Christ were written by who were intimately acquainted with Jesus Christ.
And now that's key, man. So when you read Mark, Luke, Matthew, John, what makes it a valid book to read? That these men were around him. You know, it's very hard to read something from someone who wasn't even around him. You know, it's like me writing about a man and I've never known this man. That already, it opens room for debate. Like, well, hang on, how do you know this information is right? He didn't live around him. While as history shows that Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, all these men, they was around the Messiah, Jesus Christ, which makes it a valid book to read. That they was intimately around him, meaning they was around him, man. They learned from this man, which makes it valid to read. While as many other religious books out there, the men that wrote those books, they wasn't around them, and they came hundreds of years afterwards, man.
That's right.
Like with Muhammad, I mean, his men that were around him in his lifetime, they didn't write those hadiths, man.
That's right.
You can even go online, and the dates are like 160 years after Muhammad, 300 years, even some of the hadiths that they read. So that is not valid, man. You're writing about a man that was 300 years before you was born, man. Right. What connection do you have with him, man? While as in the Bible, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, they was intimately involved with Jesus Christ, man. That's what makes these books valid. That they was around in his lifetime, man. They was acquainted with this man, and that's what makes it valid to read, man. Muhammad died, and the Quran came 160 years afterwards, man. That's why there's so many errors in the book, man. That's why it talks about Lot's wife as the pillar of salt, who they see every day and night. Now, if you live where Muhammad lives, you wouldn't see Lot's wife as the stone every day and night.
That's right.
But them errors happen because it's written not in his lifetime. Right. Them things happen. While as in the Bible, you don't find those errors because it is authentic, man.
That's right.
Reader.
The Gospels and epistles reveal their integrity and complete commitment to the truth, and they maintain their testimony through persecution and martyrdom. All the evidence inside and outside the New Testament runs contrary to the claim made by form criticism that the early church distorted the life and teachings of Christ. All right.
So now what some people like to say is this: after the disciples died, then the church, you know, it got manipulated and, you know what I mean, like re-indoctrinated. But this history that we're going to read now is going to show that that's a lie. Reader.
Most of the New Testament was written between AD 47 and 70. And all of it was completed before the end of the first century.
Meaning what? All the disciples were alive, man. And they completed all those books. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. In that time frame, these books were completed, man.
That's right.
So now, when you read these books, you're not reading a book from someone that heard about Christ. You're reading from a man that was with Christ, man.
That's right.
Mark was with Christ and he read that book. John was with Christ and he read that book. You're not reading a book that from someone that heard from John and read it afterwards. You're reading from a source, man. The first hand source.
That's right.
Read on.
There simply was not enough time for myths about Christ to be created and propagated.
And there you go. And now that is key, that it was good that it was written then so that no one couldn't add nothing on. Because there are some sects out there, they believe that, come on, a man can't make the blind, you know what I mean, like you can't make someone who's lame walk and they go, that was added in the Bible. You know what I mean? Everyone was fixated with this man, but history says otherwise. You're reading from men that were alive with this man. So if they say he made the blind see, then guess what? Jesus Christ made the blind see,
That's
man.
right.
If they said he made the lame walk, and guess what? Jesus Christ made the lame walk. Why? Because they was with him. It's not after him where people added things on. They're writing about their lifetime with this man. So whatever is in there is not a myth. It's not, something added on. It's the facts of what they experienced in their lifetime while they was around this man. Read on.
And the multitudes of eyewitnesses were alive when the New Testament books began to be circulated, would have challenged blatant historical fabrications about the life of Christ. The Bible places great stress on accurate historical details, and this is especially obvious in the Gospel of Luke, the books of Acts, Luke 2-part masterpiece. Here is the prologue to the first of these.
All right. So now, you know what I mean? For this part, I'm going to end it here. But the point being is, someone who just looks at the facts, they'll tell you that the Bible adds up. There's no contradictions. Even on the history side, there's no inaccuracies, like how people like to say. So now let's get into some, man. So, we're going to get into the empire of Babylon and show you all the history. I believe it was a few months ago, I've done a history class on a previous empire and showed you that the Bible doesn't contradict history. And we're going to do it again. Let's get my notes. All right, so let's get the book of Isaiah 39 and 1. Isaiah 39 and 1.
Isaiah chapter 39, verse 1. At that time,
Morodak
Kabbalah.
Don't worry, I know. It's a long name. So.
At that time, Morodak Kabbaladon, the son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent letters and present and a present to Hezekiah, for he had heard that he had been sick and was recovered.
All right. So now in the Bible, we're reading about this man called, his name's a bit of a rough one, Morodak Baladan. So now we're reading about this man right here. And at this time, he's called the king of Babylon. So is this man found in history? Let's see, man. So now this is a book I've got here. You can buy it on Amazon. It's called A Bible as History. You know what I mean? And we're going to read about this man here. And he's got a relief. So you can see how this man even looks like. Then we'll get him on the internet and find out if this man was really the king of Babylon at that time, man. So if you can, for the camera, the left, he's got on the hat, the Babylonian hat, the customary Babylonian hat. And that is him right there, man. Morodak Baladan. And history proves that this man exists. So the Bible don't lie, man. That's Hezekiah, right. This king of Babylon met Hezekiah, and is he historical? Absolutely, man. Is that some unknown guy just met Hezekiah? He's found in history. That's right. And that is his relief right there. Read that for me.
And it reads, at the time, Morodak Baladan, the son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent letters and to present to Hezekiah, for he had heard that Hezekiah had been sick. And then it quotes from 2 Kings 20 and 12. And Hezekiah was glad of them and showed them the house of his precious things. The whole thing.
No. But all right. The point being is, yeah,
because this Chaldean Merodach Baladan, who made himself king of Babylon for a time, was a inveterate enemy of the Assyrians all his days.
there you go. And if you never read this book before, with him Hezekiah, he had a lot of wars with the Assyrian Empire. And this king, of course, he wants allies. So he's writing to Hezekiah like, I heard you're sick, man. You know what I mean? If us two join up, we can fight against them. Mm-hmm. And look, history lets you know that this king, he was against that empire. The Bible, historically, or on any platform, doesn't have no problems whatsoever, man. Any more in that? That's pretty much it, man. So that's one right there, but it gets better, man. It don't stop right there. So if you can, I'm gonna send you a link to put online. So this is from the Britannica.com. So for those of you that don't know, they deal with everything in history, and just to let you know, if it's a lie, they won't even bring it out. If they don't believe that the information is valid, it won't even get brought out. So let's see what they got to say about this man, Merodach Baladan. Can't you?
Merodach Baladan II, Babylonian, Marduk, Apaldina, which means Merodach has given me an heir. Died 694 BC, king of Babylonian, Slakia, 721 to 710, and for 9 months in 703, who maintained Babylonian independence in the face of the Assyrian military supremacy for more than a decade.
There you go. So in the Bible, when people read, yeah, but how can he be the king of Babylon when the Assyrian Empire they reigned? Well, history explains he was fighting for Babylonian independence, because for so many years people read that and go, that don't make sense. So that empire reigns, and all of a sudden in the Bible, there's a king of Babylon that just appears up. Well, history explains that this man was fighting against him and was fighting to maintain the independence of Babylon. So in the book of Isaiah, there's no contradiction, man. In the book of Isaiah, there is no lie. This man is the king of Babylon. Why? Because he was fighting to maintain Babylonian independence. It's not a contradiction. He is the king of Babylon because he's fighting against their empire to keep his empire, if I'm making sense.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So let's get some more examples. Let's get the book of Jeremiah 39 and 1. Jeremiah 39 and 1. So some more history on the Babylonian Empire, and showing you that the Babylonian Empire and its account and its contacts with the Bible is right. There is no contradictions. There is no errors in the Bible whatsoever.
That's right. Jeremiah chapter 39. In the 9th year of Zedekiah, king of Judah, in the 10th month came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and all his armies against Jerusalem, and they besieged it.
All right. So now, in the Bible, it's saying that with the Babylonians, they came against Jerusalem and they besieged it. Now, in history, we're going to find out if this happened like how the Bible says. Read on.
Verse 2. And in the 11th year of Zedekiah, in the fourth month, Zedekiah, Salakia. And in the 11th year of Zedekiah, in the 4th month, the 9th day of the month, the city was broken up.
All right. So now the Babylonians, they broke them up, man. Meaning the inhabitants of Jerusalem did not win in this war against the Babylonians. Read on.
Broken up, verse 3. And all the princes of the kingdom of Babylon came in and sat in the middle gates, even Nagar-Sharazar, Samgar-Nebo, Sarakim, Rabsaras, Nagala-Sharazar.
Don't worry. Now, I mean, these are Babylonian names.
Good. Ragmag. Rabmag, with all the residues of the princes of the king of Babylon. Verse 4. And it came to pass that when Zedekiah, the king of Judah, saw them, all the men of war, then they fled and went forth out of the city by night, by the way of the king's garden.
So what happened, man? It's like, so I'll break it down. So they lost, man. And all the Babylonians came in, man. Meaning we was defeated, man. That even their rich elite, they're in the land like, yeah, we are now inside. So what happened? All the warriors that we had, they fled. You know, in a war, when you know that you've lost, your men retreat. So of course, what happened? We left Jerusalem, man. We're like, you know what? Listen, we need to go, man. We've lost this fight. They're in the land. The wall is down. You know, the Babylonians are inside, man. Read on.
Right. The gardens by the gates betwixt the two walls, and he went out the way of the plain. Verse 5. But the Chaldeans' army pursued after them and overtook Zedekiah in the plains of Jericho. And when they had taken him, they brought him up to Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, to Riblah in the land of Hamath, where he gave judgment upon him.
So they tried to escape, and even though they left, the Babylonians caught up with them, man. And then they captured them and they brought them back to the Babylonian king, who was a Nebuchadnezzar at that time. Read on.
Verse 6. Then the king of Babylon slew the sons of Zedekiah in Riblah before the eyes, before his eyes. Also, the king of Babylon slew all the nobles of Judah.
Imagine that, man. I mean, you're a king and they've slew your sons, man. That shows how defenseless you are, man. You know what I mean? That right there is a statement right there that, listen, I'm above you, man. You know what I mean? I'm going to kill your loved ones in front of you and you're not going to do nothing, man. You know what I mean? Imagine your son, someone's put and just thrusting a knife in him, and you can't do nothing, man. All the Babylonians surrounding you, and why did he do that? To show Zedekiah that he runs the show, man. Read on.
Verse 7. Moreover, he put out Zedekiah's eyes and bound him with chains and carried him to Babylon.
So now, with a king at the time, he even burned out his eyes and he carried him to Babylon, man. So now, let's see if this is true, man. Saki, pass on that book right there. It's going to find the page I'm looking for. Yeah. So now, let's see if this is historically true. Get it. 268. All right. So yeah, we're gonna read of this account right here, man, and we're gonna see what went down. Now, this history right here, this is from a Babylonian relief stone, meaning once they had a war, they would write down what happened. So a Nebuchadnezzar, this is his relief stone of this incident, and let's see what he writes about.
This is from the book, The Bible History, page 268, and it reads, so far, the only written evidence from the Babylonian dealing with these events described in the Bible is the cuneiform text above.
All right, so now for those of you that don't know, that name is for the Babylonian handwriting. I believe if you look it up, it means wedge form. So how they writ, it was like a wedge, like, one wedge and another, and they would join together. So of the biblical account of what we read, there also is a Babylonian account showing you that what we are reading about in the Bible is not a myth, or otherwise the Babylonians would have nothing to write about. We wouldn't be reading what the Babylonians had to say if this isn't historical, if this is not true. Reader.
It reads, in the 7th year of Nebuchadnezzar, 599 BC, in the month of Chislev, which is November to December, today, the king of Babylon assembled his army, and after he had invaded the land of Hatti, which is Syria and Palestine today, he laid siege to the city of Judah. On the 2nd day of the month of Adara, which is about March, he conquered the city and took King Jehoiakim prisoner. He installed in his place a king, Zedekiah, of his own choice.
So now, okay, I have some, of course. Now, a lot of people, they're unaware of this, but with the Babylonians, they didn't just conquer Jerusalem once. They came 10 years before, and they took that king. Then they put the king that we read about, Zedekiah, there. So now, in their relief, he just sums it all up in one. You know what I mean? So now, with the other king that had there, it mentions him too. And let's see what happened if they say the same thing. Read on.
And after he had received rich tribute, he sent them forth to Babylon and carried away all Jerusalem, all the princes, all the mighty men of valor, even 10,000 captives, and all sort of people of the land.
There, so now, even in history, he admits that he conquered Jerusalem, and he also took the people of the land. Read on.
Next page.
Yeah, next page then.
And for his Jehoiakim diet, there was a continual...
We'll get to that part next. That, what we're going to read on the next page, that is historical as well, man. But the point being is, even in Babylonian history, they acknowledge that they conquered Jerusalem.
Right.
So It's not a myth. You know what I mean? This king is not trying to uphold a lie. He's writing about what he did, and it's written in the book of Jeremiah simply because it happened.
That's right.
Simply because it's real. So is there any more on that page? Page 269.
No, absolutely not.
That was pretty much it.
It quotes 2 Kings 24 and 14.
All right, no sweat. I'm gonna send you a link for online just to show you that even on the internet, historians can't lie or even argue against this history. So even online, you can type in the siege of Jerusalem and you can find this information yourself too.
Siege of Jerusalem, 597 BC.
So now that is the relief right there. So as you see, that is Babylonian handwriting, and they have, broke down the words, the language, and they can translate what it says. And on that relief right there, it goes with the Bible, man. Now, remember, these men don't serve the same God as we do. They don't believe in the same thing we do, but they're writing about what happened. Why? Because it's the truth, man. It's what happened. Read that for me.
The siege of Jerusalem is mentioned in early years of Nebuchadnezzar's chronicles.
And the same Nebuchadnezzar that you find in the Bible, man.
That's right.
You know what I mean? That is his name, Nebuchadnezzar. What does it mean? It means like Nabak knows all. Like Nabak is a Babylonian god, and the Ka-Danazar part means like to know everything. So you know what I mean? That was one god that they believed in, and that's the etymology of his name.
So, was Nebuchadnezzar a title like Pharaoh, or was it his name?
No. It's a name, but you got the first, the second, the third, the fourth. So it was a name that was just basically passed down.
I believe. So also, was it? I'll probably get mixed up. Was Darius the title? Like I heard the Caesars was the title. Was it a family?
No, that was a title in Rome. A Caesar meaning you was like a king. That was like
and a Pharaoh's one of Egypt.
That's right.
And then like Darius, same thing or no?
Darius, yeah. Darius was a title for a Medes king. So if you was in the Mede Empire and the king, you got the name Darius. So you know what I mean? But over here, I could be wrong, but I'm very sure that it was just a name, Nebuchadnezzar. Because you had other Babylonians. What's some other ones? Baltajar, which meant like a Baal something. But these names do have a meaning to it. And it always goes back to some Babylonian god.
Go on, so look at on.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, well, on this topic, this what's that? Epiphanes, Antiochus Epiphanes. Did he just add that to his name, or is that the same kind of thing again passed down? Is it?
Well, Epiphanes meant like all-knowing God or something like that. Antiochus, yeah. So I believe that was a name he gave to himself.
Right, that's fine. Okay.
So we're gonna read about this siege of Jerusalem.
The siege of Jerusalem was a military campaign carried out by Nebuchadnezzar II, king of Babylon, in 597 BC. In 605 BC, he defeated Pharaoh Necho and at the Battle of Carchemish.
It is Carchemish.
Carchemish.
Now, also in this class, I didn't go into it, but that is in the Bible too. That he beat the Egyptians, which is also in the Bible. But for time's sake and the class and trying to make things get on the go, I've left it out. But even that war is mentioned of in the Bible too, and he beat the Egyptian armies. Read on.
And subsequently invaded Judah. According to Nebuchadnezzar's chronicles, King Jehoiakim of Judah rebelled against Babylon's rule, but Nebuchadnezzar captured the city and installed Zedekiah as a ruler.
There, so in the book of Jeremiah, we're just reading about Zedekiah, but in your own time, the Bible does go into that, where he came the first time and he took that king and then he replaced him with the king that we was reading about. Read on.
To avoid the destruction of Jerusalem, King Jehoiakim of Judah, in his third year, changed his allegiance from Egypt to Babylon.
There, so what he done was he was afraid of the Babylonian Empire. So instead of him returning to the Most High, what did he do? He thought, well, if I join the Egyptian Empire, they would help me beat the Babylonian Empire. But here's something he doesn't get. If the Lord ain't with you, it doesn't matter who you join, man.
That's right.
If the Lord ain't on your side, you could join the biggest empire on the market. And if the Lord is with the Babylonians, they are going to lose, man.
That's right.
With man, we look at the numbers. Listen, what matters more than that is who the Lord is with, man.
That's right.
And whether you like it or not, the Lord was with the Babylonian Empire, man.
Right.
Regardless of who he wanted to join, the Lord was in the hand of the Babylonian Empire. And that's why they beat him and the Egyptians. Read on.
Khan, he paid tribute from the treasury in Jerusalem, some temple artifacts, and some of his royal family and nobility as hostages. In 601 BC, during the fourth year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar unsuccessfully attempted to invade Egypt.
All right, so he won the war, but then he tried to invade. And I believe that is in Ezekiel, where they will come. But again, in Ezekiel, it doesn't say that they would dominate Egypt like as to a rule, but it says they would wage war against Egypt. So I believe that is in Ezekiel. So, yes, they didn't rule over Egypt, but they did, have a war with them, but they wasn't able to, subdue Egypt and overthrow it and have a king of their own. That did not happen. Read on.
And was repulsed with heavy losses. The failure led to numerous rebellions among the states of the Levant, which owed allegiance to Babylon, including Judah, where King Jehoiakim stopped paying tribute to Nebuchadnezzar.
All right, so this is another thing. Some people read a Bible and wonder, well, what happened? In the Bible is making a point, but according to the outside source, he stopped paying his attacks onto this Babylonian king. Is like, listen, he's lost in that part. You know what? I'm not gonna pay this man. And it happens now. If you look up someone who's tough, if they lose a fight, what does everyone think about them? That well, if he lost to him, damn, I can do it too. And guess what? He was wrong, man. He lost that fight, but it don't mean you can beat him. In his mind, he thought, well, damn, if the Egyptians, they gave him heavy losses and they put up a hell of a fight, well, damn that, I'm gonna do it too. And guess what? With them, King Zedekiah, he was so wrong, man. What the Egyptians done to him, it doesn't mean you can do it, man. So he's like, tax. Listen, man, I'm not paying any of that. And he found out the hard way, man. Reader. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Is that the king what the Lord told not to battle, innit? Is that the one that the Lord told not to battle Egypt? not to fight Egypt.
Is it? Which book are you referring to? Isaiah?
I'm not sure, but that there was a king that the Lord told not to fight, and he went out to fight anyway, and he ended up getting defeated. Is the Hezekiah?
Well, I can't recall. I'll have to read it. So if you find it, we can get into it. Off the top of my head, I'm not 100% sure.
Right, no sweat.
No sweat. Read on.
And took a pro-Egyptian position. Nebuchadnezzar soon dealt with these rebellions. According to Nebuchadnezzar Chronicles, he laid siege to Jerusalem, which eventually fell in 597 BC.
So now it wasn't just them. Not all, but a lot of the places in his empire, once they heard about that war and how it was rough, it gave them more confidence to rebel. So like any king, what do you have to do? You got to, sort out things in your empire. And that's what he did, man. So it wasn't just us in the empire, the many nations round about, they all thought, well, damn, he's down. You know what? Let's rebel. And he had to go, no, man. You know what I mean? Just because I've had a heavy loss with them, it doesn't mean you can do it, man. You know what I mean? I've lost to them, but you ain't them, man. Mm-hmm. And you know what I mean? So now he had to go on a war campaign to destabilize his kingdom, man. And we was a part of it. Read on.
He laid siege to Jerusalem, which eventually fell in 597 BC. The Chronicle states, in the 7th year of Nebuchadnezzar, 598 BC, in the month of Chislev, the king of Babylon assembled his army, and after he had invaded the land of Hatti, which is Syria, Palestine, he laid siege on the city of Judah. On the 2nd day of the month of Adar, which is 16th of March, he conquered the city and took the king Jeconiah prisoner. He installed in his place a king, Zedekiah, of his own choice, and after he had received rich tribute, he sent forth to Babylon.
Read on.
Jehoiakim died during the siege, possibly December the 10th, 598 BC, or during the month of Kislev or Tevet. Nebuchadnezzar pillaged the city and its temple, and the king Jeconiah, who was either 8 or 18 at his court, and other prominent citizens and craftsmen were deported to Babylon.
All right. So now I want to zoom in on that part. So he took the prominent citizens. So now let's see if this is in the Bible. Let's get Daniel 1-on-1, man. Let's see if the Bible talks about the king of Babylon taking the best out of our empire.
Daniel's chapter 1, verse 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of Joachim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon unto Jerusalem and besieged it.
So now we're reading what we just read in the history, that he took this king Jeconiah or Jehoiakim, as some like to say, after he came against Jerusalem and besieged it. So in Daniel 1, it is historically accurate. Right. In the book of Daniel, there's no flaw. And why is this key? Because if someone wrote this later on, they couldn't get this so right. There's only so much you can do if you live after. But if you're living there, the years are right. What happens right? While as if you write it hundreds of years later, you don't know what year. You know what I mean? You don't really know the ins and outs because you wasn't there. So what you read in the book of Daniel is good history, man. That's and right. It's accurate. We showed you that Daniel wrote this book because someone that would have written it afterwards could not get this history so accurate, man. Read on.
That's right. Verse 2. And the Lord gave and the Lord gave Joachim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God. And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God.
There you go. And you know what I mean? In your own time in the Bible, you can read that too, man. You know what I mean? It's in the book of Jeremiah. And they took, you know what I mean, things that things that we valued, and they took that to Babylon along with him. Read on.
Verse 3. And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes. Verse 4. Children in whom was no blemish, but well favored, and skillful in wisdom, and cunning, and knowledge,
and
understanding.
It's like, and where did we just read that about what he did, man? Who's with me? In the history, what did he do? He took our wise men, man. That is in history. And the book of Daniel's saying the same thing, man. He took all that was wise of us, man. Read that verse again, verse 4.
Verse 4. The children in whom was no blemish, but well favored, and skillful in wisdom, and cunning in knowledge, and understanding, and science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach and learn, teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans.
There you go, man. So they took all of the wise of us when he brought a king to Babylon. That's history. We just read it about what he did, and that is their own source. And in the book of Daniel, he's saying what Nebuchadnezzar said, that, listen, they didn't just take the king, they took the wise of us to work for them, man. It's like he pops in that book. Now, in that book I've got here, it even explains it in there as well, man, how they took the wise of us. So we're gonna get into that too, man. Let me get that. All right, Syria. All right, so uniform. Second, he carried away. Yes, page 269, just the bottom part after the capture. Yeah, brother, you got some.
Just a quick question. So,
and the relief where he's taking them away as well. That's it.
So you have 3 different documents where it's saying the same thing.
Yeah, 3 different documents. So if anyone is doubting the Bible, you're wrong, man. You know what I mean? If you don't believe in the Bible at all, there's outside information saying what the men in the Bible have been saying, man.
That's
and there's
right.
no contradiction. There's nothing that, hang on, well, they're not saying what the Bible's saying. They are saying what the Bible's saying. Read that for me.
Page 269. And he carried away all Jerusalem and all the princes and all the mighty men of valor and 10,000 captives and all the craftsmen and smiths. None remained, save the poorest sort of the land.
There, so when he came the first time, he took all the rich of the land, all that had abilities, and of course, in that book, it's referencing a Bible. Now, as we read on, it's going to give you the historical accuracy of what we just read.
On the picture as well.
Yeah, put the picture up there. So that is a Syrian relief of that's the Babylonian relief of them taking us. And if you look on the pictures, we got our berets, beards, garments with fringes on. Now, if you read it's on the same page.
After the capture of Jerusalem in 598 BC by King Nebuchadnezzar, the first deportation to exile in Babylon took place, which in this case affected only the moneyed and titled class and specialized trades.
And there you go. So even in this book, it lets you know that the Babylonian king only took the best of us. Those that had those that could, those that had something, man. Those that had that ability. He didn't take everybody. You know what I mean? He only took those that really could help him, basically. So history says it. The book of Daniel says it. That he took the a wise men of ability, the wisdom, and that book says it too, man.
And Second Kings as well, called 2 Kings 24.
There, so there's many verses in the Bible, and there's history that also supports it too, man. So nobody should be doubting the Bible, man. All these people, the Bible, I'm not too sure about that, man. Let me tell you something. You should never doubt the Bible, man.
That's right.
All those Rasta books you got in your house, doubt them, man. You reading about Muhammad in some hadiths, doubt them, man. But listen, the Bible, you ain't gonna doubt nothing, man. All them other books that you believe are the word of God. You know what I mean? What's some books that people read? Books on Haile Selassie, books on Marcus Garvey. You know what I mean? All these hadiths, Qurans and all that. You should be doubting them, man. But historians, real historians, don't doubt the Bible. It doesn't mean they believe in it, but they know that, you know what? The Bible in its accounts, they're right. What they write about is historically accurate. What they write about in the Bible can be found in outside history, and it doesn't contradict the Bible. Read on in that part there.
A bas relief from Nineveh shows this scene of the deportation, such as the citizens of Jerusalem, which they had to endure.
There, so that image right there is showing them being taken to Babylon, man. If you go to the next page, all right, we're gonna get in the Bible, the book of Jeremiah 52, 31, and 31, 52 and 31.
Okay. Jeremiah chapter 52, verse 31. And it came to pass in the 7th and 30th year of the captivity of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, in the 12th month, in the 25th day of the month, that Elevamaradak, king of Babylon, in the first year of his reign, lifted up the head of Jehoiakim.
So imagine that, man. You know what I mean? He was locked up so long that it took a Babylonian king to release him. Meaning once Nebuchadnezzar died, this man, what's his name? Evil Merodach. And again, that name Merodach is a Babylonian god. So you know what I mean? Again, in your own time, you can research his name. His name has a meaning to it. But this king in his reign, he released him, man. Meaning for all those years, he was in Babylon, just locked up, man. And we're going to find out if this is historical too. Read on.
32, verse 32. Salakia. I read from 31 again. And it came to pass in the 7th and 30th year of the captivity of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, in the 12th month, in the 25th day of the month, that Evil-Merodach, king of Babylon, in the 1st year of the reign, lifted up the head of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, and brought him forth out of prison.
So imagine that, man. He was locked up for a very long time, man. And this Babylonian king, in his first year of his reign, was like, you know what? I'm gonna release him, man. Right. So meaning from that time till the time we are reading about, he was just locked up, man. You know what I mean? Just in a cell all the days of his life. Read on.
Verse 32. And spake kindly unto him, and set his throne above the throne of the kings that were with him in Babylon. Verse 32. And changed his prison garment, and he did continually eat bread before him all the days of his life. Verse 34. And for his diet they were continual diet given him of the king of Babylon every day, a portion until the day of his death, all the days of his life.
All right, so now the Bible is saying with this king, he gave him a diet all the days of his life. Now let's see if this is in Babylonian history. Let's see, if the Bible is just making this up, just trying to make him have a happy ending, man. Or let's see if this happened. So on that page where you're at,
page 270, and for Jehoiakim's diet, there was a continual diet given him for the king of Babylon, every day a portion unto the day of his death, all the days of his life.
All right. So now they're referencing the biblical account here. So that part that the officer read right there, that is from the Bible. But let's see if this is historical. Reader.
Two fragments of clay tablets which were found in Babylon and which contain lists of rations delivered to the captives there. The cuneiform text reads as follows: Silla of oil for Joachim, which is Jehoiakim, king of Judah.
Oh, so hang on. It's mentioning the same king that we read of in the book of Jeremiah, Jehoiakim. Right. So now in the Babylonian tablets that they found, is not contradicting. They are talking about the same individual. Reader.
For the king of Judah, 2.5 silla. For the sons of the king of Judah, 4 silla. For 8 men from Judah, Slakia, 1.5 silla of oil. For 3 carpenters from Arvad, half silla each. 11.5 for 8 ditto from Babylon, half silla. 3.5 silla for 7 ditto, which were Greeks, half silla each. 10 silla for Jekunu, which is Jehoiachin, son of the king of Judah.
There you go. So now, what's the point here? The Bible's talking about he gave him a diet all the days of their life. And in these Babylonian tablets right here, they mention him. And yes, he was on a diet, and it's referencing what they had the oil with, this mixture and that. So they was fed these things all the days of their life.
Right.
You can't make this up. Like, you know what I mean? And I know there's someone online thinking, you lot are making this up. Listen, I couldn't make it up if I wanted to, man.
Right.
You know what I mean? These Babylonian tablets were written thousands of years before I was even born, man. But they're saying what they're saying because it's the truth. It's the facts. It's what happened. Read on.
Come. The clay tablets, which date from 592 BC, prove that the king of Judah must have lived in Babylon with his sons.
There you go. So even they know that from these tablets that we are reading from, this shows that that king had to have lived in Babylon, or they wouldn't be writing about him.
That's right.
If the Bible's saying that they was exiled, then you know what I mean. If the Babylonians don't even acknowledge this guy, then we would have a contradiction. But the Babylonians do reference him, and even down to a diet he had. Now, of course, in the Bible, it doesn't go into the specifics of what he ate, but in the Babylonian clay tablets that they have, it goes into the specifics of what Jehoiachin ate all the days of his life till he died. Read up.
So online also for me, it says that sila is like a measurement. Like the Babylonians use, like we use like kilograms and gallons and stuff.
Yeah.
They use sila, anzam, shekel, barazu.
There you go. So you know what I mean. So they was on a diet, man. Meaning they was given a certain amount of wine, a certain amount of oil. I didn't hear it. I didn't. Nah. So you know what I mean. So all of his life, there's only given a certain amount of food, man. He was locked up for so many years that the new Babylonian king just had a mercy on him. Like, you know what? Let him, you know what I mean? Just let him be released, man. And all the days of his life, he gave him a strict diet to eat, man. And you know what I mean? And it's in history. It's nothing, being made up by the I.S.U.P.K. It's not some, I.S.U.P.K. mind trick. It is while it is, man. Why? Because this happened. Read on.
That's right. So like yeah, like in the Bible on the insert as well, it says provisions and regular ration. So what he was getting from the king was rations. So basically there was rationing. I'm just appointing what's written.
Okay. I got it. Yeah. So that goes into it too, man. Meaning the king gave him a certain amount to eat, food, rations. All in all, it's just synonymous words. But the point being is it's saying the same thing. And even in their records, they acknowledge this Israelite king right here, and that he was on a diet or some rations or a certain amount of food or like a diet. That's the point that's being made, that what we're reading right here, the Babylonians, they attest to it too. Read it.
It reads, and some retainers, since they were still under ration strength 6 years after the fall of Jerusalem and the deportation.
So even the Babylonians acknowledge that this happened. And that's how you know this book of Jeremiah is written at that time, because anything after that, you wouldn't know these things. You wouldn't even care about these things. You would just care about the main things, that you lost your land, you were exiled. But fine details like that would only come from someone who is around and alive in that time. You wouldn't get that from someone that writ it 100 years on. You know what I mean? You would forget things like what the king had to eat before he died. You would forget that the Babylonians took the best of us. You would forget those things because you care about the main subject, which is that you lost the land. But this proves that, you know what I mean? This is written from a man that was alive in that. Make that point. Any more in that? No, sir.
The property of Eliakim, steward of Jehoiakim, so runs the inscriptions on those jar seals which have been unearthed at Debar and Beth Shemesh in Judah. They shed considerable light on the position of Jehoiakim in Babylon, since they prove that between 598 and 587, a man by the name of Eliakim must have been in charge of the crown land of Jehoiakim during the Babylonian captivity.
And to let you know, a man called Eliakim is in the Bible too. So, you know what I mean? That's a bit of a sidebar. as I said, in this class, there's so much, but I've just limited it to a certain amount. So in your own time, you know what I mean? You lot can find all the people there, man. Find all the references, and the Babylonians do write of these characters in the Bible too, man. So, you know, it's not a myth. It's not just, you know, some make-believe. This right here is all biblical, and it is also historical as well, man. Any more in that? Is that pretty much it?
Look here. Thus, it would appear that the estates of the king of Judah were left unmolested by the Babylonians. So
now that's going into another section of the book right there. It's like if you pass me the book a second, there's just another thing, but it's on another page. All right, let's get Second Kings 25 and 22. 2 Kings 25 and 22.
Good. 2 Kings chapter 25 verse 22. And as for the people that remained in the land of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had left, even over them he made Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, ruler.
All right. So now, you know, it's reading about, you mean once, what's the king's name? Jeconiah. Once he left, you know, along with Zedekiah, there was another man, Gedaliah. He was appointed regent by this Babylonian king. Now look at the archaeology they found, man. Puts it camera. So these are inscriptions right here. And so for those of you that don't know, it's like a coin to show that, you know, this is the person who's dominating now. Just like today, on a coin whose face or name is on it, the Queen Elizabeth, showing you that what she rules, man. It's like it's the one on the right, you know, the ones with the black background. Them ones on that side here. Not that one right there, yeah. So now that's what the Babylonians did, man. For him to rule, they even written him an inscription showing you that, listen, now that we got your king, this is who we have set up, man. Read that for me in the green highlight parts.
Seal of Jezaniah, servant of the king, which was found at Mizpah, and which also takes us back to the time immediately after the fall of Jerusalem.
There you go. So now this is what they found, meaning that the Bible's not lying, man. They found it. So through doing their research, they found it and go, yo, this is what the Bible is on about right here. How that the Babylonians set up this man, Gedaliah, man. And there's inscriptions backing it up. And they found this. So through doing their digging, through doing their research, they found these inscriptions on the ground, man. Read on.
Above a fighting cock is inscribed the name of official of the royal household of Judah, who is mentioned in 2 Kings 25:23.
There you go. Listen, we can't make the up, man. They acknowledge that the same person who's written of in a Bible, his name is on that inscription as well, man.
That's
the Bible is history, man.
That's right.
What you read about in the Bible, it's not make-believe. It's not just, you know, something that sounds good. It's what happened, man. It's facts. And, you know, with hard research, you will always find it out, man. Read up.
And when all the captains and armies They and their men heard that the king of Babylon made Gedaliah governor. They came to Gedaliah to Mizpah. Jezaniah, the son of
Sacrifice. I'm coming right back. It's gonna be.
Macaronite. So read it again. What the captain's got.
Verse. Okay. 1 Kings chapter 25, verse 22. And as for the people that remained in the land of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had left,
So
even
the king took all the great people, all the scholars and the PMs and the scientists and people that he could use, man. And then the regular people, the man that worked in Mackey's, the man with a regular job, the man who ain't on nothing, just left them. And that's what they do. Even in World War I and II, when they come, they get the scientists. Why? They can use the scientists to make more bombs. You know what I mean? So make better stuff, better engineering, and the regular people got no use to them. That's what the king did the same thing which they do today. It's like so. That is right, man. So as you can see, that happened right there, and there's a coin when the Babylonians set this man up, like you know what I mean. Now you don't need to listen to him, and then he went back to the Babylonians saying, "Okay, I've got the people doing what you want of them." You know what I mean? He was set up like that. Reader. It's going to Babylon and stuff.
Okay, now we don't need that, but if you can, that's an image of them being taken to Babylon right there. So all throughout Babylonian history, they have us on reliefs, man. Now I don't know if you can see it there, but there's fringes on the bottom of those garments, not on a shirt. That's a garment right there, man. They got their a beard, afros, and you see all there, man. You know what I mean? So now, you know what I mean? All this happened. Then does anyone know which empire came after the Babylonians?
Is it this Assyria?
No.
No.
So the Medes and Persians.
The Medes and the Persians, or the Persians and the Medes, don't make a difference. But yeah, they came next. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The one was the one that I said before them. Then was it before them or not?
Yes, that was before the Babylonians. So the Babylonians conquered them. Then the Persians and the Medes conquered the Babylonians. Then the Greeks conquered the Persians and the Medes, and the Romans conquered the Greeks, which again is in the book of Daniel. You know what I mean? All those 4 empires that would dominate the earth at that time. All right, so let's get Isaiah.
Slakia.
Yeah,
you just said the 4 empires. Is that talking about the 4 empires? It says the rough goat, right?
Yeah.
And the 4 empires, is that the Medes and the Persians, or is that like when the guy died, when Alexander the Greek died? Or does it means what you just said, the 4 empires?
No. The part of the rough goat, that is specifically talking about the Greek Empire. And of course, it's breaking down what would happen to that goat, about the horn would break, which was Alexander the Great, and it went to his 4 notable ones. So that part there is going into what would happen inside the Greek Empire. So, but on the basic breakdown of the book of Daniel, it goes through 4 empires. So on the statue we had, the head was the Babylonians, with the chest, the Persians, the Medes, with the lower part like the waist on down to the knees, the Greeks, and from down there till the toes was the Roman Empire. But when it talks about the rough goat and like the horns that are broken, that's talking about what would happen inside of the Greek Empire. All right. Let's go. So, matter of fact, let's get it so we all understand. It's Daniel's 8.
Yeah,
Daniel's
I was
8 and 21.
Yeah, I was reading. Right, Daniel chapter 8, verse 21. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia.
All right. So now already it's letting you know who the rough goat is. It's the king of Grecia, or you mean Greece, basically. That's just another way of saying it. So it's letting you know what this rough goat in the vision represents.
Right.
Read on.
21 verse.
Okay. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king.
So now the great horn between this rough goat's eyes is the first king, and you can look up in any history. Alexander what they like to call him, the Great. He is the first king of the Greek Empire. For those of you that don't know, before he ruled, the Greeks, they would fight each other with the Spartans. They would fight, one other family of the Greeks, and he was the only one to unify the Greeks and become the king, man.
Right.
Come on, so the precept is first Maccabees 1:1, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philippi, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smoten Darius, the king of the Persians and the Medes.
There you go. So now, this is the history right here that it was the Greeks that beat the Persians and the Medes.
Right.
Just like it says in the vision of Daniel. But read on.
And he reigned in the stead, the first over Greece.
He did what?
Reigned in his stead, the first over Greece.
The first over Greece. Like what it said in the book of Daniel, that he'd be what? The first king, man, of Grecia. Same thing. Read on. So I get in the book of Daniel.
Khan, verse 22. Now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation.
All right. So now what is it talking about? Now that being broken, meaning he's dead now. That, him that horn, he's dead. So what happens with his empire? It is broken up, man. And then it says what? The 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of that a nation. So meaning from him, his empire is going to be divided up into what? For all 4. And you can look it up. What were his generals' names? Antiochus, Lysimachus. Yeah. If you want to sit on the mic, Ptolemy, Cassandra, Lysimachus, and what's the other one? Antagonist. And then now from him became Antiochus, Epiphanes. But basically, that's how his kingdom got divided up. From him dying, he handed it down to his 4 best generals. So he did have other ones too, but he gave it to his 4 best.
Right.
You know what I mean? Read on.
And Slaki, I don't know if that's the bit I was asking before when you was mentioning those other kingdoms. I was asking, is it this what you just said then, or is it something else?
Okay, so now this is specifically just breaking down the schematics of the Greek Empire. So the 4 here is talking about inside the empire, but in other parts of Daniel, the 4 is talking about the 4 biggest empires to dominate the earth. But what we're reading right here is just talking about the Greek Empire. What would happen after Alexander died and his 4 best generals, what would happen in his empire? Right. If that makes sense.
Khan, yeah. I had that in mind before.
Okay.
That's what I understood from before. So I'm just making sure I was on the same, the same wavelength.
I got And for the sister Shara Rana, the Achaemenid Empire is right. Before they were called the Persians and the Medes, they were called the Achaemenid Empire. So that is on point as well, man. I know someone's in them history books, man. You know what I mean? Because it's commonly called the Persians and the Medes, but they called it the Achaemenid Empire. So that is right as well. All right, so let's get Isaiah 45 and 1. Isaiah 45 and 1.
Khan, Isaiah chapter 45, verse 1. Thus says the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have holden, to subdue nations before him.
All right, so now I want to make you understand one thing. Isaiah, he prophesies about the Babylonian Empire, but Isaiah wasn't alive in the Babylonian Empire. You know, he's talking to King Hezekiah, and that was hundreds of years before the Babylonians took Jerusalem. So Isaiah's alive around the 800 BC mark on down. The Babylonians took Jerusalem in 580 BC. So Isaiah, he is prophesying of the Babylonian Empire, if everyone understands. You know what I mean? So Isaiah is not alive at this time according to history. Someone has something?
Like Daniel just before. Is that right?
But no. Daniel was alive in the Babylonian Empire. They brought him along with the best of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, with Isaiah, the kings that he's around, they're more, I mean, they are way before the Babylonian time, the kings that he interacted with. So in the book of Isaiah, he is prophesying about a Babylon. He's not alive in a Babylon unless he's, 500 years old and, etc. You know what I mean? So now in verse 1, he's talking about a king right here, about the Lord's anointed. So if you want to read that again, Isaiah 45 and 1.
God. Isaiah 45 verse 1. Thus says the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have holden, to subdue nations before him.
So now I want you to have this in mind. Isaiah is not alive in the time of the Babylonians, and he's talking about this king Cyrus of the Medes. He's going to do something, and as we read on, we're going to find out what it is. Read on.
Oh God. And I will loose the lions, and I will loose the loins of kings, and open before him the two-leaved gates, and the gates shall not be shut.
Read on.
Verse 2. And I will go before thee, and make the crooked place straight. I will break in pieces the gates of brass, and
you know what, Slakia, my apologies. Start from the chapter before at verse 28. That's the a punchline right there. That's what we need.
Right, verse Isaiah 44, verse 28. That says of Cyrus, he is my shepherd, and shall perform all my pleasure.
Okay. So now I'm gonna give you a backdrop. So now what it's saying is, even though we're gonna be taken into a Babylon, that with a king right here, the Most High is going to use him to do all that he wants to do unto us. And what did the Most High want us to do? Return back to Jerusalem, man. And he's saying he's going to use this king right here, King Cyrus, Read on.
Khan, even saying to Jerusalem, thou shalt be built, and to the temple thy foundations shall be laid.
There, man. So now with Isaiah, he is prophesying of this time right here, that now with this king, he would allow us to go home and to rebuild it up. Now we're going to see if this is historical right here. Let's get Ezra 1 in the Bible. Ezra 1.
Okay, I'll pull up this one. As well, 4. So, okay, one sec. This one's hiding somewhere. Let's see.
So yeah, so now what we read, we're gonna get that in another account in the book of Ezra, Ezra 1 and 1.
Khan, Ezra chapter 1, verse 1. Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled.
All right, so I want to make you understand. I'm reading it from the account of Isaiah, but you will also find it in the book of Jeremiah as well, about this king that would make us return home and to build it back up again. Read on.
Khan, that my word might be fulfilled. The Lord stirreth up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and put it also in writing, saying, thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord God of heaven has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and has charged me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah.
So now this king's like, listen, you know what I mean? We can return home and we can, go back home and basically set things up again. Why?
Right.
Because this is right after Babylon. So of course our place is ransacked. You know what I mean? We ain't got anything. And this king, in both accounts of the Bible, it's the Lord that made him do this. In the book of Isaiah, remember Isaiah ain't alive when it happened, but he prophesied that this a Persian king, he would do it. So let's see if this is in history. I'm gonna send you a link. If you've got the book by you as well, I'll get the page.
So like also a brother said, can you get a quick breakdown on how the Romans took over the Greeks?
Okay. All right then. How the Romans took over the Greek Empire is basically like this. Wherever the Greeks are dominated, the Romans made war against them, and the Romans beat them. So if the Greeks ruled what's the land? If the Greeks ruled Germany, for argument's sake, the Romans would reach there and they would beat them. And that's how they ended up subduing the Greek Empire. So wherever they were, the Romans conquered them. And the Romans even conquered Greece as well. So basically, all right, if you have a map, I'll probably break it down for you. Yeah. So if we get a world map, now the Romans, they conquered lots of land east and west. For the Greeks, their empire was predominantly east. So you know what I mean. So that can work. That can work. All right. So now I don't know if standing up. If you can see me, just let me know. But that is Greece right there. So now with the Greek Empire, they predominantly conquered this and there. So based now with the Greek Empire, this is basically their rule right here.
So like the other one.
Yeah.
Like we can't see what you're looking at, just in case if it's for those online as well, we can't see it's not.
No, all right. We'll sort that out here.
No, I'm all right, but I mean, if you wanted to put it on it, I'm not sure.
No sweat. That's what. Just being a history class, I'll break it down. So
that's right.
Do you want me to hold it while you do it? All right. So as you can see, that is Greece right there. Yeah, no, so here. All right. So now with their empire is all of this. So remember, they conquered the Persians and the Medes. Their empire was predominantly in Iraq. So they conquered all of this. And also Egypt as well. So this is the Greek Empire. Now remember with the Roman Empire, they are more on the west. So if you show me another map more outside. So this is how the Romans beat the Greeks. If you zoom in here to predominantly this section, which one? If you zoom into predominantly this section here, a bit more here, perfect. All right, put the camera in. So now that's Rome there. Rome's known for looking like a shoe. You can't find Rome on the map. Italy. So now, remember this is Greece right here, and they conquered that. Now for Rome, they started west. So first they beat Hannibal, who lived in what you would call today northern Africa. Then for the Roman Empire, they got rich off beating the west. So they beat Spain and the top part of northern Africa. So while the Greeks had their empire on this side, Rome started on that side. And these parts here, they're very resourceful and rich. So Rome had way more ships. Rome had better weapons from taking the resources of the West. So then now Rome, in the time of the Greek Empire, they started to expand east and they beat the Greeks. So they started to, bit by bit, beat them. Then once they got here, they beat the Greeks in the land of Egypt also as well. And then eventually they ended up taking all of what the Greeks had left. And eventually all of this became the Roman Empire. That's understandable. So does everyone understand that? All right. Don't want to lose anyone.
Yeah, like how they have Alexandria in Egypt and stuff like that, right? Like in Morocco.
So it never happened in one day, but just as the years went on, whatever the Greeks had, they would basically wage war, take that, and eventually, the Greeks just became has been, and then it was the Roman Empire. All right.
Come.
So now, let's see if we can get this in history. Send out the link. Got 5. So, yeah, good.
I had something that what we read before about Cyrus building the city. So well, whether or not you can or not, but it was to do with like, because it says, like the Lord's anointed and all that, but he did not. So I was just pointing out that he didn't build for the viewers or whatever, he didn't build the actual temple. Like what it says there, Cyrus built the house for the Lord, but he didn't touch it. That's the point, folks.
Yeah. So you mean he didn't do it himself? He just allowed it, basically. You mean he just allowed it to happen? But let's get back in this book. 287. Got 5 minutes. Guys, getting it quickly. We got 5 minutes. All right, so this is it right here. So let's see if this is historical. So now, with the same king we are talking about, this is his relief right here. And they translated it and deciphered it. And let's see what it says on his relief. I believe that is in London as well. So in a gallery, it is there to be viewed as well.
When I entered Babylon in peace and took up my royal abode in the palace of the princes, amid acclamation and shouts of joy, the mighty Lord Marduk inclined the great hearts of the Babylonians towards me. I liberated those who dwell in Babylon from the yoke that chafed them. All
right. So now remember, in Isaiah, it said that, once this man rules, he's gonna I don't want to use the word, but he's going to deliver us from the hand of the Babylonians. And in his own relief, he's saying that he did. Once he entered there, those that was under Babylon, he released them. Read on.
I am Cyrus, king of all things, the great king of all the earth. So runs the inscription in the Babylonians' characters, all in clay cylinder of Cyrus. The last words might almost suggest that the biblical chronicler had them in mind. Thus saith Cyrus, king of Persia, all the kingdom of the earth have the Lord God of heaven given me.
And look what it says, man. In the Bible, what did it say about this man? The Lord gave the whole earth into his hands. And look what he's saying. He's saying that right there. He's saying that almost word for word. Read on.
In 539 BC, a year after Cyrus had beaten the army of Nabonidus, the Babylonian king, the occupation of the Babylonian by the Persians settled the fate of the last great empire of Mesopotamia. The time had come of which it was said, after 70 years been accomplished at Babylon, I will visit you, in causing you to return to the place.
There you go. So now, in his relief, he let us return, man.
Right.
You know what I mean? And now, I want to just say one thing. It wasn't just us. With the Babylonian Empire, they reigned over many people. So don't ever think it was just us. You mean he let everyone go? Everyone that the Babylonians had, the best of them, the wise of them. You mean many people was under the empire of Babylon, and this king let them all go. So don't think it was just Israelites. He let everyone go back to their homeland. You know what I mean? So of course, because the Bible is a book about us, the perspective is us. But he didn't just let Israelites go back to Jerusalem. Anyone that was under the Babylonian reign, he made them all go. So don't go saying that and if someone goes, no. Under relief, he made many people go. You know what I mean? So just always keep that in mind as well. All right, and so that's the class. I'm going to hand it over to priest and officer, Karafia.